All right, Phil, you've been spending some time this week talking about the chatter in the locker room, players talking about Drake Maye and his performance during practices, both in those 30% of the first team snaps, but also his work that he has taken very seriously on scout team, really putting in some work, really impressing some of his teammates. What's been going on down there in Foxborough as it relates to what people are saying about Drake?
Yeah, and I just want to point out, this is me going out of my way to ask people, right, what they're seeing from Drake Maye. Because I feel like every couple of weeks or so this year, until he starts to actually play, I just want to check in. I want to see how it's going. It's too important a story for us not to check in on a relatively frequent basis. So this is a week where, I was asking all the coaches at their press conferences, and I probably spoke to a dozen players this week about Drake Maye and his performance. And I'll just give you a couple of the big takeaways for me. Number one, in terms of how he's impressing people, the descriptions I've gotten have stood out to me because it's not what you might think. It's not what I thought I might hear going into the week. What I thought I might hear was, oh yeah, it's obvious why he was the third overall pick. Throws off his back foot. The arm strength is off the chart. No look throws across his body. Some of the stuff we were actually seeing in the spring and early in training camp, the physical stuff that we know he's capable of. That's what I thought I was going to hear about. But the reason he's been impressing his teammates, and I think it's particularly impressive because this is the stuff he's needed to work on most since becoming a pro, is his ability to play within the structure of the offense. People can tell he's going through his progressions. He's making good decisions. He's throwing accurately, whether it's with the Patriots offense or playing off the cards as the scout team quarterback. There are other teams across the league, just talking to players this week, even I am sort of learning this. I haven't done a whole lot of reporting on scout team quarterbacks over my career. But it sounds like in other places, sometimes the scout team quarterback will sort of take that time to make it their show. You know what I mean? Like, they're given a play, and they're supposed to run the play a certain way, and the good ones do that. And some guys, especially maybe the younger guys, they kind of want to, they use those snaps to kind of go off script and kind of do their own thing. Drake Maye hasn't done that. He's tried to stay as true as he can to whether it's this week the Niners or last week the Jets, and what he's seeing there to give the defense a good look. And he's playing within the structure of these other offenses and playing with good rhythm and good timing. And so that stood out to me. A couple of other things just really quickly. He has spent, so he's getting the 30% with the ones. He's also, it's my understanding, spending a decent amount of time after all these practices continuing to develop his rapport with guys like, for instance, Pop Douglas. So he's adding reps there. And the last thing is, it sounds like within the huddle, because he didn't really do this the other night against the Jets. It was 2-minute drill, and it was hurry up, and it was, he wasn't really commanding the huddle, right? He just didn't do it based on the situation in the game. It sounds like in practice, he has come a long, long way as it pertains to how he's communicating the play calls. You guys have heard him talk. He's a little bit of a fast talker. Got a little bit of a certain kind of youthful energy about. He's got the North Carolina drawl too. It was tough for some of his teammates to understand what he was saying in the huddle. Call it a month and a half ago, right? When he was initially starting out, maybe some nervous energy, just trying to get the play call out, trying to be on time, maybe rushing it a little bit. Now, when they hear him in the huddle, he's delivering whatever it is he's supposed to deliver with a lot more confidence. I'm told it's much more clear. It's easier for everybody to understand the message. So he's progressing. He's developing. It's going in the right direction. The question is, at what point does the coaching staff feel like it's gotten to the point where he should be on the field?
Do you think we're getting close?
I do. That's not anybody saying that to me. But he's the third overall pick. These practices are important. They're already doing something that is relatively unusual by giving him as many first-team snaps as they're giving him. He's now had a little bit of game experience. They're loading him up with these reps on the virtual reality system. You can bank hundreds of reps a day on that thing. And so I've said October for a long time. That's just sort of how I've felt. That feels like enough time to me for him to get his feet wet, to understand how the week works, how to prepare for a given defense, how to prepare your offensive menu with your offensive coordinator. I think a month plus, verging on 2 months, that to me feels like a solid amount of time. He's not going to be fully baked. He's not going to be fully developed. He's not going to be anywhere close to his ceiling. That's like year 3 or 4 probably. But is he going to be ready enough to play after a couple months or a month and a half? I think so. So I think we're getting there.
I think Jacoby Brissett's playing for his job this weekend. I think it could be next week.
I think it's a big game for him.
Yeah, I think it's huge.
I do.
He doesn't have to win, but that's what we're talking about. Like, what defines the competitiveness of this weekend? Are we using the spread, 10.5, to decide that it was competitive or not? Are we using the eye test of, hey, the defense bounced back and they didn't give up 100 yards after contact and they were finishing tackles, finishing plays? What are we defining competitiveness as for this weekend?
I just think you want to see offensive, when we're talking about the quarterback decision, you want to see offensive competency. Like, I think big picture for this team, it's a big week for Drake Maye. To me, this is a culture test kind of week for Drake Maye. They didn't show up on a Thursday night game, primetime game. I know it's a short week. I know you're on the road. They did not show up. If you get anything approaching that again this week, that's a problem. But if they show up, there's energy there, you're going to be the less talented team? Yes. Are you probably going to lose? Yes. But you can show a lot more than you showed a week ago. And so to me, big picture, it's a culture test for him. But, specifically on the offense, you've got to start showing more proficiency in the pass game. I know the offensive line stinks. They're going to have, I think City So's going to play. They're going to have 80% of their starting offensive line out there. And I know the left tackle is going to be a fourth stringer, essentially. That's
Another
not
new guy.
That's not ideal. DeMontre Jacobs, my belief is, I talked to him a lot today. I think he's going to play, and I think there's a good chance he starts at left tackle. So that's not great.
Can I ask you a question about him?
Go ahead.
Do you think there's any chance he's any good?
I mean, he's a borderline active roster NFL guy. So, I mean, is there a chance?
Like, no, I mean, is he going to be a complete embarrassment, or can he, do a job that has been equal to the trash they've gotten so far?
Oh yeah, I don't think it. I don't think it can be a massive drop off. We'll see. I guess
my thought is they can't drop off any more than they have. I'm waiting for something surprising to happen there.
The one thing that's nice about him is he at least has experience playing left tackle.
Yes, correct.
Which is relatively new for that group between Chukwuekorfor and Caden Walt. Like, this guy has spent the last 2 off seasons as a left tackle.
Yeah.
Playing preseason for the Broncos, but it is what it is. He's a backup, but they need to be more than 100 yards passing per game. And I think Jacoby Brissett has done a lot of things well. He's been incredibly tough. He's obviously protected the football. But I also think there's been some meat left on the bone when it comes to this passing game. And I think if you see that again this week, then that's when you start to look at Drake Maye and say, it feels like he's getting close to ready. And could he get the ball out a little bit more quickly? Could he be a little bit more accurate down the field? Could we use his legs a little bit more to our advantage so we can be more competitive offensively in these games? Yes. I would say yes, yes, and yes to all 3 of those questions. You might get a little more volatility in terms of the turnover-worthy plays and the decision-making in real time. No question about it. But there are going to be ways where I think once he starts to play, you're going to see real improvement at the quarterback position almost immediately.